Welcome back to Narrations. Here, you can listen to classic movies, timeless holiday stories, and comforting films that have become part of Christmas itself. Tonight's movie is White Christmas, a warm, musical holiday classic about friendship, loyalty, love, and the quiet gratitude owed to those who gave us more than we ever realized. This is a story wrapped in song and snowfall, but at its heart, it's about people choosing kindness when it matters most. Our story begins during World War II, on Christmas Eve in 1944. Inside a cold, drafty mess hall overseas, soldiers gather away from home. There are no decorations, no trees, no warm fireplaces, only fatigue, uncertainty, and the longing for loved ones far away. Yet even here, the spirit of Christmas survives. Two entertainers, Bob Wallace and Phil Davis, take the stage to lift morale. They sing, joke, and bring laughter to men who desperately need it. Bob is confident, disciplined, and professional. Phil is charming, easygoing, and quick with a joke. Together, they make a perfect team. Behind the scenes stands their commanding officer, General Tom Waverly, a man respected deeply by his troops. He is not just a general, but a leader who knows his men by name and treats them with dignity. When the enemy launches a surprise attack, Bob risks his life to save Phil. The act leaves Bob injured but alive. Phil, deeply grateful, feels forever indebted to Bob. The war eventually ends and years pass. By 1954, Bob and Phil have become one of the most successful entertainment duos in America. They perform on television, travel in style, and enjoy fame that few achieve. But their personalities remain unchanged. Bob is still methodical, focused, and cautious. He plans everything carefully and avoids emotional risks. Phil, on the other hand, embraces spontaneity. He believes life should be enjoyed, not managed. As Christmas approaches, the duo finishes a successful television broadcast. Bob is ready to return home alone, content with routine and quiet. Phil, however, has other plans. During their travels, they meet two talented sisters, Betty and Judy Haynes, who perform a musical act together. Betty is practical, intelligent, and reserved. Judy is playful, romantic, and openly optimistic. Phil is instantly drawn to Judy. Bob, more guarded, notices Betty's talent and quiet strength but keeps his distance. Phil, seeing an opportunity for romance and mischief, convinces Bob to travel with the sisters to Vermont, where the women are scheduled to perform at a small inn. Bob resists. He dislikes unplanned trips and distractions. But Phil, always persuasive, manages to push them onto a train heading north. Snow begins to fall as they arrive in Vermont, or rather, the absence of it. The countryside is bare. The air is crisp, but the ground is green. The inn they arrive at, run by Betty and Judy, is charming but struggling. Guests are few. The season is wrong. Christmas feels distant. The owner of the inn is revealed to be none other than General Waverly, now retired. He poured his savings into the inn, hoping to create a peaceful life after years of service. But business is failing, and the lack of snow threatens to ruin the season entirely. Bob and Phil are shocked to see their former commander in such circumstances. The man who once led troops through war now quietly struggles, too proud to ask for help. Bob insists on leaving immediately, worried about appearances and complications. But Phil sees something more important. He believes they owe the general, not just loyalty, but gratitude. Phil convinces Bob to stay and help generate business for the inn. They organize a show, inviting friends from the entertainment world to perform and draw crowds. The plan is simple: save the inn, surprise the general, and give him the Christmas he deserves. As rehearsals begin, tensions quietly surface. Bob grows closer to Betty, admiring her strength and honesty. But misunderstandings arise when Bob overhears a conversation and mistakenly believes Betty thinks he is selfish and disloyal to the general. Hurt and embarrassed, Bob withdraws emotionally, choosing professionalism over vulnerability. Meanwhile, Phil and Judy's romance blossoms easily. Judy believes Betty and Bob are meant for each other and tries repeatedly, and sometimes clumsily, to push them together. As Christmas Eve approaches, The inn fills with performers. Decorations appear. Music echoes through the halls. Laughter returns. But beneath the cheerful surface, uncertainty lingers. Bob struggles with his feelings for Betty. Betty feels misunderstood and hurt by Bob's sudden coldness. The general remains unaware of the full extent of the plans unfolding around him. And above it all hangs one final uncertainty. There is still no snow. Without it, Christmas feels incomplete. The inn's future remains uncertain. And the perfect ending everyone hopes for feels just out of reach. As Christmas draws closer, friendships will be tested, misunderstandings must be resolved, and gratitude will find its voice, not through spectacle, but through sincerity. Because sometimes, the greatest gift isn't success or celebration. It's remembering who stood beside you when everything was uncertain. Christmas Eve arrives quietly at the Vermont Inn, wrapped in cold air and uncertainty. The building hums with activity as performers rehearse, costumes are adjusted, and decorations glow softly against wooden walls. The inn, once empty and struggling, now feels alive, filled with voices, music, and the nervous energy of people hoping they've done enough. Yet beneath the warmth, tension lingers. Bob Wallace keeps his distance. He throws himself into organizing the show, managing logistics, and ensuring everything runs smoothly, all while avoiding Betty Haynes as much as possible. His pride is wounded, and rather than confront his feelings, he chooses professionalism, the one thing he knows how to control. Betty, meanwhile, is deeply hurt and confused. She senses Bob's withdrawal but doesn't understand it. From her perspective, she admired his loyalty to General Waverly, respected his discipline, and was quietly falling for him. His sudden coldness feels like rejection, and worse, a judgment she doesn't deserve. Phil notices everything. True to his nature, Phil believes misunderstandings are best handled directly, or, failing that, dramatically. He presses Bob to explain himself, but Bob refuses, insisting he's only doing what's right. Phil shakes his head, recognizing stubborn pride when he sees it. Judy, on the other hand, focuses on Betty. She reassures her sister gently, reminding her that Bob's distance may have more to do with his own insecurities than with anything Betty said or did. Judy believes deeply in love and timing, and she's convinced that Bob and Betty are simply stuck at the wrong moment. As the evening approaches, General Waverly remains unaware of the true reason behind the gathering. He believes the performers are there for a casual holiday stay, not realizing that the entire show is meant as a tribute to him, a gesture of gratitude from the men whose lives he once led through war. The irony is painful. The general, who once carried the weight of thousands of lives, now worries quietly about his failing business, determined not to burden anyone with his concerns. The show begins. One by one, performers take the stage, filling the inn with music and joy. The audience, made up of locals, guests, and fellow entertainers, applauds warmly. Laughter echoes. For a while, worries fade into the background. But emotions have a way of surfacing when least expected. Backstage, the misunderstanding between Bob and Betty finally reaches its breaking point. Betty confronts Bob directly, demanding honesty. Bob, forced out of his emotional retreat, admits what he overheard, and how deeply it affected him. The truth comes out quickly. Betty never doubted Bob's loyalty. She never questioned his intentions. The entire conflict rests on a misinterpretation, a moment of pride colliding with fear. The realization hits Bob hard. He sees how his refusal to speak cost him not just a romance, but the chance to trust someone who cared for him genuinely. He apologizes sincerely, without performance or defense. Betty listens, and forgives, because she understands something Bob is only just learning. That strength doesn't mean silence. And love doesn't survive without honesty. Their reconciliation is quiet, tender, and deeply earned. Meanwhile, Phil and Judy's relationship continues with ease and warmth, serving as a gentle contrast, showing what happens when openness replaces hesitation. As the show builds toward its finale, Bob steps forward to address the audience. He speaks not as a performer, but as a man honoring someone who shaped his life. He introduces General Waverly, inviting him to the stage. The general is stunned. As he looks out at the crowd, he recognizes familiar faces, former soldiers, fellow officers, and men who once stood under his command. Emotion catches in his throat as the realization dawns. This is not just a show. It is a thank you. The performers break into song, voices joining in harmony. The lyrics are simple, heartfelt, and filled with respect. The room grows quiet as the weight of the moment settles. General Waverly stands tall, eyes shining, deeply moved. For a man who spent his life leading others, this acknowledgement means more than applause ever could. Then, something magical happens. Snow begins to fall. At first, it's barely noticeable, a few soft flakes drifting past the windows. Then more. And more. Soon, the Vermont landscape is transformed, blanketed in white. Christmas has arrived. Guests rush to the windows, laughing in disbelief. The inn, once threatened by empty rooms and green hills, is now the picture of a perfect Christmas postcard. The miracle everyone hoped for, but dared not expect, unfolds quietly, naturally. The final song fills the room as voices rise together, singing of love, home, and the simple wish for peace. Couples dance. Friends smile. The general salutes his former men with pride. Bob and Betty stand side by side, no longer guarded, no longer unsure. Phil and Judy laugh together, comfortable and certain. Ian glows with warmth, not because of decorations or snow, but because of shared gratitude. White Christmas comes to its close not with spectacle, but with sincerity. It's a story about friendship that endures beyond circumstance. About loyalty that doesn't fade with time. About love that grows when pride steps aside. And about remembering those who gave us stability, guidance, and belief when we needed it most. It reminds us that success means little without gratitude. That celebration is empty without connection. And that sometimes, the most meaningful gifts are the ones that say, simply, we remember. If you enjoy listening to classic movies, timeless holiday stories, and Christmas films filled with warmth and music, you'll find many more stories like this here. Like the video if you enjoyed this classic, share it with someone who loves old Hollywood Christmas movies, and subscribe for more movie narrations throughout the season. Thanks for listening, and Merry Christmas.